you just hate it when there's this new game announcement that's the stuff your dreams are made of? You're already counting the days until the game is launched, and you actually read the entire news, and then BAM! You're screwed. You actually don't live even close enough to the place where the game is going to be released. What the hell? Dreams crushed, all hope is lost, you curl into a corner, and you cry for a week. We've been there before, don't worry. Game publishing deals work in mysterious ways, and there are big bucks in exclusivity. That's why in the last few years, we've seen a bunch of high-profile games being announced exclusively for unexpected regions, leaving many millions of players out of the equation and, incidentally, many millions of dollars out of the developers' pockets. But now they have to live with it, and so do we. In this top, we won't mention games that are announced for the West, but for some weird reason still haven't launched in North America or Europe. Guess we're looking at you, Blade and Soul and Phantasy Star Online 2. This is just a top 5 for those games would definitely benefit from a global launch. That just isn't likely to be the case. Try not to get too frustrated during this top 5. It sure gave us some anger issues while working on it. Anyways, let's begin.
FreeMMOStation.com.
Capcom has definitely created some memorable franchises since it was founded over 3 decades ago. We can all admit to that. While we've always loved Resident Evil, no matter how hard the studio tries to destroy it, and other big names like Street Fighter and Monster Hunter are still around as fresh as when they were launched. So with all the love that these games get from the Western regions, why is it that Dragon's Dogma Online is only launching in Japan? At least that's the initial plan. A free-to-play game for PC, PS3, and PS4, Dragon's Dogma Online sounds like a great treat for those who love the underrated Capcom RPG. Some impressive boss creatures give it a bit of a Monster Hunter feeling, but more on that later. 4 classes are revealed, the game world is said to be 3 times the size of the original game, and while it's an instance-based game, this shouldn't deter from the fun. A region-specific release, however, will leave most of us out without a chance to try it. It's not wrong to say that the only way Borderlands could get any better was to make it an actual MMO, and it's, well, actually happening. Hooray! However, the announcement of Borderlands Online left a little bit of a bitter taste in our mouths, and we're willing to bet every single fan of the series in North America and Europe felt the same way. Why in the hell is this MMO exclusive to China? Gearbox Studios is developing the game in collaboration with 2K Games China, and it will be a heavily instance-based MMO, playing pretty much like Vindictus and Dragon's Nest. But you'll get tons of weapons, over 2,000, just like in the main series, and hopefully the great loot-based gameplay will remain faultless. So once again, we get screwed, and while in a way we want Borderlands Online to succeed so that the launch in further regions is considered, the evil inside us is a little bit kind of hopeful that it turns out to be a big steaming pile of shit that is played only by a 5-year-old kid and his dad. Holding a grudge? Us? Nah. Does it show? Monster Hunter Online is the second Monster Hunter MMO, and it could be something big. Powered by the CryEngine 3 and being a free-to-play game, it's not just looking good, but it would get a massive player base in a heartbeat. We know just how vocal and devoted the Monster Hunter players are, and success would be just a matter of releasing the game in a polished state with a balanced cash op. However, being a collaboration between Capcom and Tencent means that the game is going to be a China freaking exclusive. Of all things, a franchise that was created in Japan and is loved in the entire world is getting a China exclusive MMO. How weird is that? There's a glimpse of hope though, or in fact, 2. First, there's the slip from Crytek representative that mentions that the game was in development for the international market and planned to be released worldwide, something that was later retracted. Then there's the benchmark tool, which for some unknown reason was also released in English. So why would they do that if the game is allegedly a China exclusive? We don't know, but anyways, Monster Hunter Online would probably bring in the bucks, the big bucks for Capcom, but I guess the Japanese studio doesn't like money. Another big series that is going to China is Call of Duty Online, thanks to a deal between Activision and the giant Chinese publisher Tencent. Development on this game was switched from Activision Shanghai to North American studio Raven Software. The launch is still exclusive to China. There's a few odd things surrounding Call of Duty Online. First of all, it's a bit weird that to promote such an exclusive game, the marketing people decided to get a very popular Hollywood actor, Chris Evans, which you may know as Captain Freaking America, but he's also been in other movies, including the extremely cool Snowpiercer. Despite being a huge publicity stunt, it would probably make more sense to hire a famous, Chinese actor, right? Unless Activision isn't ruling out a global release sometimes later, But this is such a long shot that we won't even lose too much time with it. A release in the US would probably cannibalize part of the player base that every single year buys a new Call of Duty. So there's clearly a conflict of interest that won't benefit the publisher. As far as the game itself goes, it looks like a decent shooter that is faithful to the series' mechanics at least, including a PvE mode, weapon customization, and big bosses, but it's still not likely to set the world on fire. We wouldn't mind seeing it in the West, though. So when Halo Online was announced, it was kind of a shock and surprise thing to us with all the popularity of the multiplayer mode of the main franchise, the main games. Is this free-to-play online shooter really even necessary? Or really better yet, did anyone ask for this game? Apparently, Microsoft also kind of had this lingering doubt about it and made sure that the game was going to be exclusive to Russia, a country that has seen, other games begin their life cycle over there. World of Tanks and Warface are two examples. And at the time of the announcement, there were no plans to bring Halo Online to other regions, but this could serve as a test for a posterior release. The Halo Online announcement made us consider a few things. For instance, the fact that it's said to be optimized for lower-end PCs makes us think that it's not going to be a very flashy game, but one that'll try to get as many players as possible playing it and spending money on a cash shop. Being developed by Saber Interactive, the same studio that worked on Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary and the Halo Master Chief Collection, it kind of hints at a lot of reused assets, cut corners, and simply getting a very familiar game running in very little time. The whole thing kind of screams of low resources, maximize revenue kind of game, which will probably get a lot of attention just for its name alone. We may be wrong though, and this could be a really good game that does the Halo series justice, but if so, then the more reasons we should have to bitch about it, in the face of Russia exclusivity. If it's going to be great, it's probably going to make a lot of money globally, right? Well, alas, that's just not the case. In fact, some fans are so angered that the exclusivity exists that they even created a modified launcher that removed the geo restrictions of Halo Online. However, Microsoft swiftly acted and slapped them with a cease and desist. We know we're digressing quite a bit, but a game such as Halo Online should be made available for everyone to play. And we can't help to feel that it's kind of a little bit redundant, in the same way that Call of Duty Online seems to be. Sure, there's always going to be players enjoying it, but we can't help but missing the true Halo Online, the MMORPG that Ensemble Studios was developing with a $90 million budget to compete with the World of Warcraft. Until development was cancelled in 2007, tragically. Now that would have been a tantalizing game, one that would probably have printed money for Microsoft. Anyways, here's to hoping that it's going to happen sometime, preferably while the series is still hot. Right now, these are the 5 free-to-play titles that we consider the most likely to get a huge following in North America and Europe and the West, but the publisher somehow decided to go for an exclusive deal and settle for a big nice bag of cash instead of going global. Now, we can only speculate on the reasonings for these decisions, but there's probably a conflict of interest, and of course the appeal of licensing the franchise to another publisher and seeing them manage the game. On the downside, there is always the chance that said franchises come out stained from a bad and rushed free-to-play game, but I guess that's the risk more and more studios are just willing to take. So, Station, any other big-name exclusive games that you would like to see in your region? Let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.
This is another free-to-play MOBA, and the studio expects the two games to compete between